Right, we are going to start the third session, third part of the discussion of your examination paper of July 2021 examination paper. So, under the first part of the video, we discussed the long case scenarios 2 questions, and then we discussed the MCQ question most difficult areas in your paper, and we come to now short scenario questions. In overall, the short scenario questions are not that difficult. So, if you have a certain level of understanding of the theoretical areas, and if you have practiced the short scenario questions in your past paper examination papers in a proper way and keeping the time, so you will be able to answer the questions that are coming in the short scenario questions. Right, let's start with the question number 2. The question number 2 is one of the important and interesting area, that is auditing in a digital environment. Right, what my steps is always look at the required section for 3 times. Read the required section for 3 times, and after that you should always highlight the question paper with especially the action verb and do a scanning reading of the question, and then come for a detail reading of the question. Right, the first one will read: assess the validity of the 2 views expressed by the senior partner of an SNS on the use of audit automation and data analytics in gathering audit evidence for 6 marks. Assess the validity of the 2 views expressed by the senior partner of SNS on the use of audit automation and data analytics in the gathering audit evidence. So highlight the action verb as is. So you need to assess. So assess means you need to write the adequate the quantity of the answer. So that is for 6 marks. So 6 marks. So this is so crucial. Always link the number of marks into the action verb. Assess the validity of the 2 views expressed by the senior partner of an SNS on the use of audit automation and data analytics in gathering audit evidence. Part B, discuss. Action verb is, I am not going to read 3 times for the time saving, but always you read the 3 times at the examination. Discuss the 4 advantages of using computer assisted audit techniques in planning and gathering audit evidence for 4 marks. For 4 marks. Right. So, we'll read the question carefully. SNS Associate is a mid-tier firm of chartered accountants with 5 audit partners. So, they are considering the audit automation by having data analytics and automated testing in order to derive efficiencies in performing the audit. So, audit automation with the data analytics. So, now this firm is moving into the audit automation. So, audit automation, fantastic area, audit automation with ADA, audit data analytics. So, we call ADA, audit data analytics, one of the beautiful area in your syllabus. You have joined SNS after working in an audit firm overseas and have experience in using automated audit tools. The senior partner of an SN is confident that they will be able to maximize the benefit with audit automation is of the following views. He has given 2 views. So, now we will see the first view. What is number 1 and that is number 2. Number 1 is telling audit automation and the use of data analytics will enable the auditor to test 100% of the population, and sampling would no longer be required, and therefore absolute assurance can be provided on the final statement. What is going to say? 100% testing can be done. So therefore absolute assurance, that means 100% assurance can be provided in the audit, right? And no sampling will be used as we discussed in the traditional auditing. So what is thinking SN Associate senior partners is, if we use the audit automation and the ADA, audit data analytics, so he can test the 100% item and accordingly absolute assurance can be given. That is one view. Second one, time will be saved and the technology will play a major role in gathering audit evidence. So time saving and plus technology will play a bigger role in audit evidence, gathering audit evidence, right? So this is 2 views given by your senior partner. Now the question is asking, assess the validity of the two views expressed by the senior partner of S&S on the use of audit automation, data analytics in gathering audit evidence. Now you are supposed to be explained to the examiner whether you agree or what is your views with regard to the senior partner's view. In simply, so if you have learnt in your auditing in a digital environment, there are four contents, very clear. One of the interesting and fantastic, the section in your CL1 syllabus, please read it out, read that study text, one of the easiest area, an interesting area. If you don't know anything, artificial intelligence, blockchain and all those, you can go and you can Google all those, you can get any details what you need. So there we talk about the four topics: recent developments or current trends of the digital business environment. Then we discuss the audit automation. Then we discuss the computer assisted audit techniques, and we come to the cyber security. Out of that, the second hot topic on your syllabus is the audit automation. So what is meant by audit automation? So when you talk about the audit automation, when the management basic diagram management prepare the finance statement and give it to the shareholder, but the shareholder does not trust the management, therefore shareholder goes and appoint a third party person called auditor, chartered accountant to come and check the finance statement. When he comes and check this finance statement and giving the report to the shareholder, he always apply the auditing standard called Sri Lanka auditing standard or international standard on auditing. So Sri Lankan version is Sri Lanka auditing standards. That's how we do. So this auditing mechanism, this auditing methodology is we call risk-based auditing. So why we call risk-based auditing? At the moment in carrying out the audit in the world, 100% cannot be checked. 100% cannot be checked. Since the 100% cannot be checked, we apply in this world at the moment now it is called risk based or a risk assessment. You assess the risk, that means you try to identify the areas where there could be more material misstatement, the areas where there could be more material misstatement, you identify and perform audit procedures and gather sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, and you come to a conclusion that there are no material misstatement in the finance statement. So no material misstatement in the finance statement. That is the existing mechanism, methodology that we have been adopted as of now in the world. But things are changing now. Technology has come. Fourth industrial revolution. With the fourth industrial revolution, the technology has come in, and technology has overridden all the business process in this world. Why? Not only businesses now, it has already come to the audit firms as well. As a practitioners in the audit firms, now also we are rethinking how this auditor's role getting impacted with the technology. So one of the technological mechanism that you can apply is ADA, audit data analytics. Rather we check the sample basis information, you can check the 100% item. Earlier you select the, let's say there are about 1000 payment vouchers item. So earlier you used to select a sample of 25, 40, 100, 200, 300, no, whatever sample, you select a sample and you verify. Now today, no, you apply the ADA and you can check maybe like example called robotic process automation. Those technologies can be used and you can check the 100% testing, that is correct. That is correct. What the senior partner is telling perfectly alright, because this chartered accountant can apply the technology, something called RPA, robotic process automation, maybe artificial intelligence, all those technologies, blockchain, all those technologies can be used and you can go into the 100% testing. Sampling is no more required. Perfectly correct. Perfectly correct. Perfectly correct. Now the thing is, now the next thing is you have to assess the senior partner's view. Whether is it possible to perform 100% assurance? No. Even though you check the 100%, it is never be possible for an auditor to express an 100% conclusion. Because why? Because auditing always involves judgment. In auditing, always involves the judgment. always involve the judgment. Since the auditing always involves judgment, obviously this 100% assurance cannot be provided. Another argument you can say that now under this risk model, under the risk-based auditing model, and most of the circumstances we look at the company's internal controls. We look at the company's internal controls in order to assess the risk. And we rely on their controls in coming to our in arriving at our conclusion. But with this 100% testing model, actually auditors are not required to look at the internal controls in 100%. Why? Because we are not going to rely on the controls, but we are going to check the 100% transaction. But in summary, what I want to tell you, what the senior partner is telling, look at again, audit automation and the use of audit data analytics will enable the auditor to test 100% of the population, correct? Sampling will no longer be required, correct? Therefore, absolute assurance can be provided. No, absolute assurance cannot be provided because all this technology has a limitation. Technology also have a limitation. So, nowhere you can give 100% assurance, and also that always the auditing involve a professional judgment. Skepticism has to be used, judgment will have to be used, and therefore 100% assurance is not possible. That you have to critically assess the answer given by the senior partner. The second view, time will be saved. Yes, obviously time will be saved, and technology will play a bigger role in the gathering the audit evidence. Yes, that also correct, but you should not be overconfident of the technology. The shareholders should not be overconfident. So now sometime we think that okay, shareholder thinks that okay, auditors are using the technology, auditors are not physically coming and checking, but they use the RPA, and computers or robots comes to the audit and they carry out the audit procedures. Therefore, financial statements are 100% good. You should not be overconfident of this. Why? Technological instrument or a technology also has a lot of limitations. In order to apply the technology, so you need to have a right skills and the right people, right resources, right? So therefore, yes, it's a time saving, but whatever you said and done, that is for the applying the technology in gathering audit evidence, that also has a limitation. While accepting all these both the statement, so you need to accept all the statement, but you have to say that the 100% is not possible, and you should not be, or a shareholder should not be overconfident, because always technology itself cannot deliver the product, technology itself cannot deliver the what is expected by the shareholder. So therefore, I hope that you got some understanding into this answer. So your examiner is asking you to critically evaluate that. Actually, this is straightforwardly given in your study text. If you look at the audit automation section, so these two views are straightforwardly it is given. If you have read that 14 or 15 pages of the study text, this question can be answered easily. Right, so we'll look at the answer first. Section 2. Right, so 100% testing, but I recommend you to write in a point form answers, so rather one paragraph, so it will be always very clear to the examiner. 100% testing, it is true that audit automation enables auditors to examine a complete data set. However, at present the auditor obtained evidence on the effectiveness of controls in assessing the risk of material misstatement. If 100% testing of a transaction is possible, the auditor does not have to worry about the controls. So nonetheless, the auditor will still wants to understand the system which provide the data set. On the other hand, the auditor is expected to provide reasonable assurance, and this will not change even in future, that it always involves judgment, professional judgment. So 100% checking is relevant to an audit is a question. Part B, it is correct that the use of audit automation will significantly reduce the human intervention and in analyzing data and will have a significant impact on the efficiency of the audit. On the other hand, it requires the resources, skills in high technology to conduct data analytics. In contrast, although technology can help to obtain evidence, auditors and stakeholders may become overconfident in the technology. The auditor is still required to apply professional judgments in performing an audit. So I hope that the exam answer which I explained and what is given by the examiner is clear to you. Right, then we'll come to the part B of the question. Discuss 4 advantages of using computer assisted audit techniques in planning the audit evidence. As you are aware, the computer assisted audit techniques, I'll write here itself because relevant to the same question. Computer assisted audit techniques, computers are helping you to carry out the audit. So basically computer assisted audit techniques, you have two. One is audit software, other one we call test data. So I hope that you have an understanding into these two techniques, what the auditors are applying in the practical auditing, audit software. When you carry out the audit, you try to use audit software that will help you in gathering audit evidence, planning the audit, and lot of advantages are there. So the examiner is very clear asking what are the advantages of CAT. Just straightforward theoretical question from your study text. If you go to the study text, it's very clearly given what are the advantages. There are two types of student. One type of students is they logically think what is CAT and they have a good understanding what is CAT and they think and write at the exam. But there is another category who exactly memorize the answers given or points given in the study text and try to memorize and write. So whatever but for the digital auditing, so both the methods may work, but the first type of student will be at less risk, because even whatever the practical case scenario comes at the examination, you will be able to think and develop or construct your answer. So if you think about this CAT, what are the advantages? If you can remember the study text. So auditors can apply the program controls, auditors can test the program controls, and greater number of transactions can be checked in more accurately, right? More accurately, and this is cost effective. So it will be cost effective. The transaction can be checked instead of paper of the transaction, right? So likewise the advantages have been given in the study text. So those 4 advantages you can write at the examination. Hope that you have written. So see, number 1, the auditor can test the program controls as well as general controls associated with computers. Number 2, the auditor can test a greater number of items more quickly and accurately. 3, the auditor can test transaction rather than paper records, and CATs are cost effective, and the results from CAT can be compared with the result from the traditional testing. Right. So that is the discussion of the question number 3. We will move into the next question. That is this is question number 2. I'm going to the question number 3 from the internal controls. Right, question number 3. Question number 3 is from the internal control. So this is another interesting question. So let's look at, and one of the easiest question. And there was a similar question in the KB4 as well in the previous year syllabus. So if you look at the paper analysis, you can see this one. Analyze 4 effective controls in the procurement to pay cycle of TL summarized above. Analyze. So you have to read 3 times. Analyze. Your action verb is analyze. Analyze. Highlight that. Analyze 4 effective controls in the procurement to pay cycle. For that is for 4 marks. 4 mark question. Analyze 4 effective controls. Did you notice that the word called effective? Not the examiner is asking you to write the controls, but you are supposed to write the effective. So if you can remember the effective meaning which I explained during the previous MCQ discussion, effective control mean what? Always under the internal control chapter, so we discuss about the effective controls. So effective controls mean what? Always that the particular control should be designed properly, so that must be implemented properly. So always designing of controls and the implementation of control can be, mainly implementation can be tested through the test of controls, right? In your examiner is asking in this question, there is a scenario given. In this scenario, you are supposed to identify effective controls available, that is number 1. And number 2, for any of the 3 controls analyzed in A above, outline, action verb, highlight that, action verb is outline. One test is that you would perform to test the operating effectiveness. In order for you to check the operating effectiveness, so you have to write the one test. So that means what? Number 2, examiner is asking, especially at the implementation, what is the test of control should be performed. And as I explained during the webinars of the previous internal control webinar, so always remember this, in writing test of controls is the most easiest question in the auditing paper. Why? Any control is there. So how you if there is a control, you are going to check it. You are going to check that control through maybe inquiry, observation, reperformance, recalculation, or whatever the procedure you can apply. So therefore, if you know the control, writing the test of control is nothing. Right, we'll read the, but always remember, examiner is asking here is not only just a control, but you have to write that effective control. So that means some control which gives the, which fulfill the objective of the particular control, right? Not the all the controls. Right, so we'll read quickly. Question number 3. So you are a manager in charge of in a firm of chartered accountants, and you have been assigned to the internal audit division, internal audit of TechCom Private Limited. It's a private limited, a company engaged in the manufacture and retail of electronic devices. Your team is required to evaluate the operating effectiveness of key business processes that relate to the financial statement of TL. You are currently reviewing the following narrative notes prepared by one of your team members in relation to TL's procurement to pay cycle. And we are on the procurement to pay cycle mean purchase system. We'll read it. The accounts assistant matched the invoices with the good received note and purchase order and filed the 3 documents together. Read it. The account assistant matched the invoice with the good received note and purchase order and file all 3 documents together. In very simply, if you can remember the practical application of internal control which we learned previously, so that is called, this is called 3-way control. So 3-way control mean original 3 documentation of the PO invoice and the GRN is all 3 documents are cross-checked and all are matched. So matching of all 3 documents is a not good and effective control in the business organization, and those are attached together. So therefore, this can be recognized as an effective control. Once all 3 documents have been matched, the account assistant enters invoices into the purchase system in batches. Batch control is there. Detail of each batch is recorded in a batch control sheet. So that means in this company, so there is a batch control. When the batch control is also a good effective internal control, because when there is a batch control, always the errors could be identified in advance. Detail of right and batch control sheets are sequentially numbers and recorded in the batch control book. The manually produced invoice total on the batch control sheet is agreed to the computer generated total before the accounts assistant confirm the data process into the system. So therefore, that can be recognized batch control as a one control, one effective control. Then each invoice is stamped as entered. Once the details are being entered to the purchase system, you put the entered seal, so that avoid the duplication, that avoid that invoice comes back again as another transaction. So the fraudulent activities can be avoided when you cancel that one through the entered seal. So therefore, entered seal. So entered seal, we call entered seal in the practice. So entered stamp, you will stamp as entered, so that is an effective control. Payment vouchers and the relevant invoices are sent to the accountant by the accounts executive. Sending the payment voucher is not a control, it is a process. Always when you are writing these internal control questions, you need to understand what is the process, what is the process, and then what is the control. You need to segregate this. And then payment vouchers are relevant. Invoices are sent. The accountant agrees each payment to the relevant invoice and sign in each payment voucher and authorize the payment. So the accountant authorizes the payment after verifying the details. That is a good control. Authorize the payment. So authorizing the payment is a very good internal control while looking at the other information. So that's the effective control. All approved payment vouchers are sent to the cashier for payment. So all approved payment vouchers are sent to the cashier for the payment. Now you can see the records are kept by one person. The matching is done by an account assistant. Then those are sent to the accountant and the payments are done by the cashier. So you can see simply, what is that? So number 5, you can see a proper segregation of duties can be seen. Segregation of duties can be seen in this particular company in a proper way. If you can remember in the internal control webinar, I told you for you to write the word called segregation of duties in a big font and keep on a place where you study. Why? This segregation of duties is a so crucial aspect in any business organization internal control system. Whenever you are writing the examination question, simply you can see on all the questions of internal control, segregation of duties will be there. Segregation of duties can be seen in this company as well. And then when the cashier makes the payment, invoice are stamped as a paid seal. So the paid seal has been given. So that also can be recognized as an paid seal, can be recognized as an internal control. So now in the examiner is asking you to identify 4 effective internal control, but we have recognized 6. 3-way matching, batch control, entered seal, authorization, segregation of duties and the paid seal. Right? So you can write out of 6, 4 internal controls. The second part of the question is asking, it's a very easiest, one of the easiest question. For any 3 controls analyzed in above outline, 1 each test. So now you are supposed to write the test of control for this TOC, test of control for everything of all these items, what you could do. Very simple, right? Very simple. So what is the test of control for the 3-way control? Very simple. You select a sample of payment vouchers and select a sample of this documentation, payment vouchers, and see whether 3-way matching has been done. Simple. Select a sample from the procedure. And batch control. What you can do? You can go and observe and see whether the batch control is taken place or it's happening. Entered seal. Select a sample and see. Authorization of the payment. Select a sample and see. Or the entered seal you can go and observe also. Segregation of duties. You can observe. Paid seal. Select a sample and perform and see whether those have been done. So very simple answers, and if someone is asking you to write the test of control, that is the most easiest area. Don't get panic and don't get scared. Don't think that auditing is something miracle landed from somewhere. It's in our day-to-day life, and just think it in a logical way. If you think in a logical way, you can easily write these questions. Right. So if you look at the answers given by the Sri Lanka suggested solution, You can see what I told you. Number 1, invoices is matched to the with the relevant good and good received note and the purchase order before it is entered into the system. This makes sure that the correct goods are being delivered in the correct quantities and that the supply is invoicing for the correct price. The test of control is select a sample of invoices and check whether they are filed with the relevant GRN and PO and whether there is evidence of matching of 3 documents, right? So that select a sample and do it. Number 2, batch control are used when entering the invoice details. This enables data entry errors to be identified and corrected on a timely basis. Test of control, observe the invoice entry process to ensure batch control sheets are being used, or using the test data. You can apply the test data also. That test data mean CAT, computer assisted audit techniques towards that. And the accountant, third one, accountant checks the authorized individual payment. It's a good control. Test of control, review a sample of payment vouchers. Then when payments are made by cashier and recorded by the account division to reduce that a person will be able to make an incorrect payment, segregation of duties, and observe the payment and recording system to ensure there is adequate segregation of duties. And we come to the last 2. Invoices are stamped as paid and invoices are stamped as entered. Then again both the places you can check the sample of documents. Alright, we come to the third part C of the question. Part C of the question. List 3 conditions that are needed for the internal department of TL to function effectively. The list 3 the conditions that are needed for the internal department to TL to function effectively. So if you can remember, this is a straightforward theoretical question which is from the chapter number 20, internal audit. So under the internal audit, so there are a lot of content given in the internal audit, but that internal audit has given. So this is under the, if you have the study text, you can turn into the page number 626. So that has given the list of conditions that are expected to be in place to have a proper internal audit function in an organization. So if you can remember, so that the aims of the internal audit department must be agreed by the board of directors. For what purpose this internal audit department is there, what their role must be agreed by the board of directors. That is number 1. So that is so crucial, right? And also there should be a head of the internal audit. So he should have access to the chairman and the CEO of the company. And also internal auditor should have the access to the people and the documents in the pre-lead. Also internal audit should be independently reported to the senior director. Likewise, there is a list given in the study text. So those are the expected answers. For that, the list 3 conditions that are needed for an internal audit department. If you just see this, you can see in the study text page number 626 also. These are the certain reasons given in the study text. Number 1, the aims of internal audit are agreed by the board. Internal audit covers all areas of control and not just accounting controls. Internal audit has whatever access it's necessary to people and documents. The head of internal audit has clear access to the chairman and chief executive officer of the organization. The head of internal audit reports to the senior director. It's an important one. The internal audit department is independent of the executive management. Internal audit fulfill the requirement of auditing standards and best practice. Internal audit is consulted if there are likely to be significant changes in the business or control system. The internal auditor does not have operational involvement in the areas outside the internal audit. Results of the internal audit work are clearly communicated and the recommendations are acted upon by the senior management. So internal audit performance is regularly assessed. So straightforward theoretical questions from the internal audit chapter. Right. Question number 4. Question number 4 will it's again an interesting question from the Code of Ethics and the yes, it's 100% from the Code of Ethics. So we'll read the question. We'll look at the required section. Evaluate. Action verb is evaluate. Evaluate the threat to independent facing by M&A in accepting the appointment as the external auditor of NPL for the year ending 31st March 2021 as well as any safeguards available. So you are supposed to evaluate the threat for the independency So evaluate the action verb, highlight it. Evaluate the threat to independence facing M&A in accepting the appointment as the external auditor for the year ending 31st March 2022. That is as a 4-mark question. So you need to evaluate the independency including the threat. And just will read the question to identify what is the threat to independence as per the Code of Ethics of Sri Lanka. So Mona Singh Associate is a firm of chartered accountant, has been invited to accept the statutory audit of Nelum Private Limited. So now the chartered accountants, the firm, so M&A is the chartered accountancy firm. So they have been invited. So invited to carry out the audit of NPL. Right? Always whether it's a private limited or a PLC is a so crucial information. So this is a private limited. So that is an important information in auditing questions. For the year ending 31st March 2022, and also the year ending is also important, 31st March 2022, we are going to be appointed as the new auditor. So you are an audit manager of M&A and you have been assigned to perform the client acceptance procedures. Now you are audit manager. So you are in the process of evaluating whether we should accept this particular client or not. So that is your job role at the examination. When performing an initial acceptance procedures, you noted that NPL had acquired a 100% stake in a Rose Private Limited. So one time, so this NPL had acquired a Rose Private Limited, right? Yeah, RPL. So they have acquired RPL, right? So they have acquired in June 2020. So this has taken place in June 2020. So June 2020 mean, so it is going to be the previous financial year, June 2020. So we are going to be audited to be appointed at the 31st March 2022, but we have done 1 year back this transaction. During the acquisition process, the M&A transaction service team provided due diligence and the valuation services to value of the goodwill arising from the acquisition. So this in June 2020, this M&A, one of the team, M&A transactions, or we call advisory team of the M&A has come and help in this transaction of acquisition, right? So M&A has advised you. So M&A in this particular transaction, right? So we have advised them, right, on the goodwill as well. In the NPL acquisition process of RPL, the M&A audit firm had been part of this particular acquisition process, and we have advised them on the transaction processing, including the goodwill calculations. Goodwill arising from the acquisition, and now you know in the consolidated financial statement of MPL, so goodwill has been accounted as an asset. In the consolidated financial statement of NPL, this goodwill should be there because they have acquired the RPL. The valuation team structured under advisory services and MA and the oversight by advisory services and a non-assurance partner. In this audit firm, so basically there are 5 partners. So out of that separate partner, one partner separate who are in charge for a non-assurance services has been included in this activity. This audit is going to be done by another audit partner, which is these 2 are different people but under the same firm. The above acquisition resulted in RPL becoming a material subsidiary. So this for this company, this becomes a material subsidiary of NPL. The management of NPL has recorded the goodwill arising from the acquisition in the consolidated finance statement of the goodwill. So this goodwill has been recognized under the consolidated finance statement as an asset. right? That's the situation. So that means when simply what it says, in 2 years back or 1 years back, now we are on, let's say we are on 2021, 2022, MA has been requested by the NPL to take over the group audit, to be appointed as the auditor, but now we are in the analyzing the process, but while analyzing we see that the 2 years back or 1 year back we have provided another non-assurance services to this client. While providing this non-assurance services, so we help them in acquisition of another company where we involve in deciding the figure of a goodwill. And if we undertake this audit, what will happen? So we have to carry out the audit of NPL, all account balances, transaction and the disclosure. While carrying out, so you need to carry out the, so you have to carry out the audit on this goodwill as well. So you have to carry out the audit on the goodwill as well. While you carry out the audit on the goodwill, so the goodwill amount is decided by whom? The goodwill amount is decided by the same audit firm. The help of same audit firm has gone into the process. So that means when subsequent year M&A come and check the goodwill of the NPL, mean what is decided? Who decided that? With the help of the same audit firm. So therefore, you can see a self-review threat could arise. Self-review threat could arise. Self-review threat could arise if you undertake this audit. So now, in the code of ethics doesn't prohibit just because of there is a threat not to give up the client. No. Threats are everywhere in this market, in the practicing market. But just because of having a threat, we don't withdraw from the engagement or we don't decline the engagement. We look at that whether I have the safeguard to be applied to mitigate the risk to an acceptable low level. Whether I can reduce the self-review threat and whether I can give an independent opinion to the shareholders on this NPL company. I try to look at in that angle. If I look at in that angle, in this particular company, what you can do? So looks like there is a self-review threat. Even though there is a self-review threat, so this could be undertaken, this audit, provided this goodwill is not material to the financial statement. Now let's say one example is, so this goodwill is not material. If the goodwill is not material to the finance statement as a whole, still that is the only impacted area for the M&A. All others are okay. That is the only area that is impacted. So therefore, you could consider of undertaking this audit while applying the safeguard, like so putting a second partner review or another independent partner to come and review. With those safeguards, this can be accepted. This can be accepted. But the situation here is different. Why? So this RPL has become a material subsidiary for NPL. When the RPL become a material subsidiary, most probably the goodwill accountant also going to be material. So in that case, if you look at the second circumstances is, so goodwill is so material. If the goodwill is material, so your risk cannot be reduced to an acceptable low level. So therefore, you should decline this particular engagement. Clear? So always you need to see whether, so if you can remember under the Code of Ethics webinar we discussed what the steps you need to apply, while you addressing a Code of Ethics requirement, Code of Ethics questions. So if you can remember those requirements, always you need to see what the threat arising, and the secondly you have to see whether what the fundamental principles that are going to be affected. Third important one, you need to see that whether safeguards are available or not. That's the difficult question to be decided at the examination, whether safeguards are available or not. If the safeguards are available, you write those safeguards. There are no safeguards, so you have to decline the assignment. So looks like if the goodwill is material, no safeguards are available, you should withdraw from the engagement. Clear? Right. So let's look at the answer. So you are supposed to evaluate the answer. And if you go to the answer of question number 4, a firm has provided valuation services in 2020 when it was not the auditor of the company. However, this continues to appear in the finance statement, and therefore it is important to understand the impact of the service provided to the company on independence if the firm accepts the appointment as the external auditor. The firm was involved in determining a value that appears in the statement of financial position of the company. Hence, this will have a self-review threat as it will be subject to the audit, and the auditor is expected to express an opinion on the consolidated financial statement. If the goodwill amount is not material, look at that. If the goodwill amount is not material, the firm can consider appropriate safeguard to mitigate the threat to independence in accepting this engagement. One of the safeguard may be appointing the second partner review. However, with the given fact, it appears that the amount is material to the finance statement as this was a material acquisition. In this case, there are no safeguard available to mitigate the self-review threat arising as a result of providing valuation services. Hence, the invitation cannot be accepted. Right, there are two additional points given. Obtain confirmation from the client that he understands the valuation and assumption used, the valuation are acknowledged, and use separate personnel for the audit. Those are safeguard available under this under the number one option number one. Right, part B. So you are the manager responsible for independence at M&A. Silicon PLC is an existing audit client of M&A. A director of SP expressed the intention of hiring a tax consultant to obtain the following services and contacted the tax partner of M&A to check if they are keen to accepting the appointment. So tax consultant, there are three services given. Required, advise the tax partner whether the acceptance of each of the proposed services above would result in any threats to the independence of M&A. So that is for 6 marks. Right? This is a straightforward question from your theoretical discussion of the code of ethics, which is coming under the self-review threat. Self-review threat, providing non-audit services to the audit client. If you just see, now you need to advise on the tax partner whether to accept each of the proposed services above would result in any threats to the independence of M&A. Right, part B of the question number 4, what it says that you are on M&A. So M&A is the audit firm company, and you have been approached by the Silicon PLC. The company name is Silicon PLC, SP. Right. So they are asking for a tax consultancy services to be appointed as the M&A. So now you are the tax partner. Let's say this is tax partner. So tax partner has to answer what type of services can be provided for this client. So SP is an existing audit client. So at the moment M&A is this SP is an our audit client. Right. At the moment SP is the audit client, but they are now asking about the tax consultancy services, while the audit service is also being provided. Hiring tax consultancy, obtaining the following services. What are the services available? Number 1, these services are being requested by the client. Number 1, preparation of tax return. So it's with regard to the preparation of tax returns, whether can it be provided or not is a question mark. And the second service is calculation of income tax liability. Calculation of tax liability. can be provided or not. Number 3, provision of tax advisory services on the VAT, right, advisory services. So now the examiner is asking from you, advise the tax partner. So you have to advise to the tax partner whether the acceptance of each of the proposed services. Can I undertake all 3 services is the question mark. Can I undertake or not? It's an important question. Tax return filing, that is a very general matter in this world, in this Sri Lanka or any other country. Audit firms carry out the audit, but just because of filing, just you have all 3 situations, tax return, calculation, tax liability, advisory, all these, when you provide those services to the existing audit client, obviously everywhere this self-review threat is coming. Right. So this is coming, self-review, because you are advising on tax matters mean. So when you are going for the audit, so you are going to check during the audit the tax matters which were given by you. Right. So obviously the self-review threat arises there. Now in these 3 circumstances we'll see, it just now filing the income tax return is not generally to be seen as a high risk, because while the audit is carried out and they come and tell you as a tax consultant using a separate tax partner or a separate team, so it's generally you can file the income tax return. I don't think this is an issue, this can be provided. Generally it is not a risk, but that you can apply the simply safeguard like Chinese wall using 2 separate teams. Those safeguards could be applied and this can be provided. Number 2, calculation of tax liability. Calculation of tax liability mean at the year end, the SP's tax should be calculated by someone. That part is done by the M&A. And M&A calculate the tax liability and gives to the SP. Then M&A is going to audit the SP. Another day what happened? M&A is going to check the tax calculation which was prepared by him, which was prepared by M&A itself. So therefore, self-review threat is very high when you calculate the tax liability. It's very clear, if it's a private limited, this could be done with the certain level of safeguard. But if it is a PLC, this is a PLC, if you read the question carefully, Silicon PLC, this cannot be provided for a PLC. It's very clear in the Code of Ethics if it's a PLC. This is where I have been highlighting with the private limited or a PLC is a so crucial information. It's one of the crucial information in a Code of Ethics and the audit quality and like that. So calculation of tax liability is not recommended being a PLC. Third one, provision of tax advisory on the application of value-added tax on the different sales stream in SP in accordance with the applicable tax legislation. Tax advisory services also can be provided. That again, self-review threat arising. You need to see whether in what capacity you are giving the advisory and what the service of advisory that is given by you. So especially when it comes to if you are advising something based on the prevailing law, it can be done. Based on the prevailing the legislation, based on the information that is available in terms of the legal system, that you can give any advice on that. That is possible. But you can't advise beyond the law, you can't do how tax planning and all that, so you can't advise those things in the being a PLC. Right. So those are the answers. So if you look at the suggested solution, so preparation of tax return for the year ending 31st December 2021, tax return preparation generally does not threaten independence as long as the management take the responsibility for the returns. If the management is willing to assume responsibility, the firm will be able to provide this service as it will be provided by a different engagement team independent to the audit team. Calculation of the income tax liability of the company. This is a public listed entity and there is a prohibition imposed by the Code of Ethics. This would result in a self-review threat as the auditor is involved in determining an amount that will appear in the finance statement of the company that are subject to the audit. Further, it involves the auditor taking up management responsibility Hence, the firm will not be able to accept the service. Provision of tax advisory services. If the service is clearly supported by tax legislation and the advice will not depend on the particular accounting treatment or presentation of the finance statement, this service can be undertaken. Right. We come to the final question, question number 5. Right, question number 5. Question number 5 again from the non-assurance services or assurance services, and that also not a difficult question, another interesting topic in your CL1 syllabus, assurance services, 10% of your syllabus weightage. First look at the required part, as is, read the 3 times of the required section, as is, so you need to assess the action verb, as is. Assess the appropriateness of the specimen opinion paragraph included in the compilation report provided by the senior in charge of the engagement and suggest an appropriate amendment. So you need to assess the opinion paragraph given, and if there is an error there, you have to suggest the appropriate amendment. Part B of the question, state, action verb is a state, it was one of the simple question. State 3 generic procedures the senior in charge should conduct to carry out the compilation and engagement of GS for 3 marks. So this is for 7 marks. You need to write the question adequately, answer into a 7 mark, and always action verb linking to the number of marks is another important strategic point at the examination. And then, so this is 3 marks, straightforward, direct 3 marks, because that you are supposed to state only. So we'll read it. Your question is to assess the appropriateness of the opinion paragraph. Right. We'll read this carefully. So you are an audit manager at a P&N Associate, a firm of chartered accountant that offers a range of assurance and non-assurance services. So you are from P&S. So you are from the P&S. I again highlight to you, always when there is a case scenarios, draw these diagrams in the questions itself and try to clarify what the scenarios in a proper way through the diagram. So that will help you to understand what the examiner's real questions and also to answer based on the specific information given in the case scenario. Dian is one of your good friend and he is a sole owner of GS. So GS is one of your friends sole proprietorships. Dian is one of your friend. A supermarket chain operating in the southern province of Sri Lanka. GS prepares monthly finance statement using MyOB accounting software. So they prepare the monthly finance statement using an accounting package as required by the loan agreement with its bank. So this GS has a loan agreement with the bank. So they have a right. So they have a bank. So they have a loan agreement with the bank. So loan agreement with the bank. So there is a loan agreement. And then it says GS must provide the bank with the annual finance statement that have been complied by applying Sri Lanka accounting standard for small and medium size entities. So now bank is asking the finance statement from the GS, annual finance statement. So annual finance statements have been requested by the bank from the GS. Right. Dihan has approached you to obtain this service from your firm. Now Dihan is coming and telling, look here my friend PNS, so my bank is asking me to prepare the annual finance statement. So now GS is asking preparation of annual finance statement. So that is the service that is requested by the GS from the M&A P&S audit firm. Right, that they are asking what? Look at again, as required by the loan agreement with its bank, GS must provide the bank with annual finance statement. That's it. Not the audited finance statement, but the annual finance statement. Even a single word has a big sense here. Right, annual finance statement, not the audited finance statement. So you have agreed to perform a compilation engagement. That's correct. So with this type of situation, what you can do is, so you can do a compilation engagement. Compilation engagement as per Sri Lanka Standard on Related Services 4410. That is also correct. You have agreed to perform a compilation engagement, have instructed a senior in charge to perform this engagement per the requirements set out in the Sri Lanka Standard on Related Services 4410 compilation engagement. That's correct. The senior in charge of the engagement has used the following specimen paragraph in the draft compilation report. We perform this compilation engagement in accordance with the Sri Lanka Standard on Related Services compilation engagement. Then it says, we have applied our expertise in accounting and financial reporting to assist you in the preparation and presentation of these finance statement in accordance with the Sri Lanka accounting standard for small and medium sized entities. We have complied with the relevant ethical requirements, including principles of integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care. So this finance statement and the accuracy and completeness of the information used to comply them are your responsibility. In our opinion, the finance statement has compiled in all material respect on the basis of the Sri Lanka accounting standard for small and medium size entities. Right? So now it's a fantastic question and one of the easiest question. Now your friend has approached you to prepare the annual finance statement, and accordingly you have done this one and compile and you have given the report. You have done it. Your question is now, assess the appropriateness of the specimen opinion paragraph given in the report included in the compilation report provided by the senior in charge. First we will look at what the opinion paragraph given here. Opinion paragraph given in the last paragraph, in our opinion, look at that. We say, in our opinion, the finance information has been compiled in all material respect on the basis the Sri Lanka accounting standard for small and medium sized entities. So if you can remember, I told you at the MCQ discussion as well, chartered accountant can provide the two types of services. One is assurance service, other one called non-assurance, or we call related services. Right? Then the assurance services mean what? For you to tell about the assurance services, crest should prevail, and also we discussed the non-assurance services. There are two types of non-assurance services. One is agreed upon procedures, other one is a compilation engagement. This is given on Sri Lanka Standard and Related Services 4400 and Sri Lanka Standard and Related Services 4410. Here no crest. So no crest. So that means in both these activities, no assurance is provided. So in order to provide an assurance, you need to comply with the crest. If it is comply with the crest, so basically you have a two type of assurance, reasonable assurance and the limited assurance. In the reasonable assurance, for example, it is an audit. We provide the reasonable assurance in audit, limited assurance in the review. Right? In audit what we say, finance statement prepared by the management do not contain material misstatement. Finance statement in all material respect, no material misstatement, that we positively say under the reasonable assurance. But in the limited assurance we say nothing has come to my attention to state that the finance statements are materially misstated. So that means both are assurance, even though the level of assurance are changing, right? So we cannot provide the 100%, but we can provide the reasonable assurance, which can be a limited assurance, but both are assurance services. While assurance services only we provide an opinion, because we are an independent third party person who gives an opinion to the intended user. But here there is no opinion given. Why? This is what we do, what they requested. If the GS has requested something for us to do, that is, we do as we requested. No third party involvement. No third party involvement. No shareholders are involvement. Let's say, well, now this is a sole proprietorship. But no bank. Now, if the bank has requested us, then there is a tri-party. The trust prevails and accordingly assurance can be provided. But here no tri-party prevails. It's only two parties involved. Only GS is requesting. So therefore, assurance cannot be provided. This is a non-assurance. Non-assurance also, this is a compilation engagement, because you are compiling. But they are keeping the bookkeeping through the MyOB. You are compiling the information on behalf of the client. So you are compiling and you are giving a report. While you are compiling and giving the report, can you give an opinion? Just thinking now logically. Can you give an opinion? So you will not be able to give an opinion. Why? So you are not giving a comment to a third party on the accuracy of this financial statement. What you say you have just prepared it, that's it. So therefore, your question is asking the appropriateness of the opinion. This opinion is wrong. Why? We are not giving an opinion in the compilation engagement. We cannot give an opinion on a subject matter, because no assurance is provided, no reasonable assurance, no limited assurance. Therefore, this opinion is simply incorrect. Simply incorrect, right? So therefore, first of all, you have to say this is incorrect, because no assurance is provided, limited to reasonable, and no crisp prevail. So this is, we have to just say that you have performed this, you have compiled the information given, and the information responsibility is with you. So that is the information responsibility you must take, and we have just compiled only. That fact only we should say. No opinion, no conclusion, nothing is given. Clear? Right. And you ask him to suggest an appropriate amendments. So amendment means you cut down this paragraph, opinion paragraph, it cannot come. You have to simply say that the management is responsible for the information. That's it. Very clearly given in the study text. If you go to the page number, I don't have the exact page number, but if you go to the assurance services chapter, in the assurance service chapter, compilation engagement, this has clearly been given. Right, we look at the required answer section. If you just read, in an assurance engagement compilation service, there is neither reasonable assurance nor negative assurance, because no procedures are performed to verify the information. No opinion is provided because no assurance is provided. That's a so important answer. Therefore, including an opinion paragraph such as, in our opinion, the finance statement has been compiled in all material respect on the basis of the Sri Lanka Finance Accounting Standard for small and medium size entities is not appropriate. The compilation report should include a sentence that simply states these finance statements are the accuracy and completeness of the information. These finance statements and the accuracy and the completeness of the information used to compile them are your responsibility. Very clearly given in the study text. Right, so we are coming to the next part of the question. That is a straightforward another theory question. State 3 generic procedures that the senior in charge should conduct to carry out the compilation engagement. What are the audit procedures that the senior in charge are conducting to carry out this compilation engagement of the GS? Now, if you are carrying out the compilation engagement of a GS, what the senior in charge should do? Number one, senior in charge should understand the information, business. Senior in charge should understand what is GS, what are the information available, how they maintain the records, right? And the number 2, you should go and inquire from the management how these informations have been raised, or how these informations have been collected, right? So whether there are any other information which we have not given to us, likewise. So audit procedures, main 2 procedures must be performed, right? And also the third audit procedure is, finally senior in charge once everything done, so he has to read the compiled information, compiled finance statement to see whether everything in order, because it must be overlooked whether there are any significant issue that he can see, or the significant mismatch that he can see. So that 3 procedures are important in terms of the compilation engagement, very clearly given in the standard 4410, or not only that in the study text. If you look at the suggested solution for that, obtain an understanding of the business and the accounting practices and principles of the industry, inquiry from management, personnel and nature of the business transaction and from the accounting records and information, read the compiled information to ensure it appropriate in the form of content, right. So with that we conclude the paper discussion of July 2021 examination paper, in your CL1 Advanced Audit and Assurance. I just want to tell something about 2 minutes. So your examination is going to be scheduled in about 1 month of time. The time is more than enough, so don't get panicked to the time. So what you need to really do is, this 1 month you need to do a proper preparation for the examination. So what you need to do, first of all, get all your past papers of CL1 as well as if possible KB4. Try to understand what are the commonly tested areas and first get that understanding. And number 2, get your study text properly. I hope that you have already learned the study text now, and try to see and try to learn this subject, or try to read the subject again in a logical order. So not just to read the study text, right? Try to look at a logical order. And third one, practice write the questions as much as possible. 50% of your timing should be devoted to the writing question, because the subject like auditing is so difficult sometimes if you don't understand the concept. If you understand the concept, auditing is going to be another easiest subject. So therefore, whenever you write the questions, only you will realize the examiner's expectation and certain theoretical chapters, theoretical areas that you read in the study text. Alright. So if you do these 3 properly, so there is no doubt about that, you will definitely get through the examination, upcoming examination. But always hard works are needed, and you should devote time for the studies. And sometime main auditing process, selective studies will not be applicable, will not be useful. For a few chapters you can do the selective studies, but that is not recommended. But main auditing flow, the main auditing process, you need to have a proper understanding. Right. So with that we conclude the chapter. If you have any questions with regard to this paper discussion, so you can send me an email. So I will give you my email ID. So you can send me an email. So I will be able to answer. I will be able to answer if you have questions. Sorry. So I don't have here, so I'll give the email. Right. So with that we are concluding the session.